Welcome to the Kawartha Small Business Podcast, where we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small businesses. I'm Brian Rump from Profit Coach.
And I'm Matt Geraghty from Matty G Digital.
And we are recording from the Thrive Podcast Studio at Thrive Co-working Community, downtown Lindsay, Ontario at 18 Kent Street West. All right, today we're going to have a conversation about what we do with the podcasts. This is a kind of rehash of one Matt and I had. And the starting of it really is there's a part of me that wants to completely scrap the Kawartha Small Business Podcast. And I think there's a lot of benefit to walking through that conversation to determine what the next steps are for this podcast or potential other future projects.
I still will say, when I reacted, I let you continue talking. Because at first I was like, oh, you just want to stop doing the podcast. I was like, oh, okay. Not that it was like any feeling other than like it's fair to have that thought. So elaborate. You want to stop doing the podcast?
I think I want to keep doing a podcast. I think when I look at what are the core reasons we started out this, and there's probably a whole list of them, and some of them I'm rethinking, some of them I think are still very valid. So I wanted to, create something with you and have regular conversations. Part of me wanted to prove that we could consistently create and produce content. As we've learned, that is not something that happens very often. And lots of other podcasters have reached out to us and they just are impressed at how many episodes and how consistent we've been. So we've checked that box. We've kind of proven we can do that. But then part of me looks at, okay, what is it about Kawartha Small Business, and do I want to be that person anymore? So I think when I had the first version of it, it was I liked podcasts. I thought there should be one for small businesses in the Kawarthas, and sometimes you got to be the one that creates it. I think it's morphed. We've had conversations. We've showcased business. There's like lots of cool things we've done. And when I think about what's the next version of that, I just wonder if that's me who wants to do that, if that's the best way to get what we want out of it, because I think there's the soft things of having good conversations. It's also marketing and awareness for both of us as well as professionals in this community. And then I look at how many people actually listen and wonder, is it getting extra awareness? I don't know if that's true. I think the people who listen and have been kind of the core loyal listeners, we've met a lot of them. It's worked that way. Do they care what the format is? Or do they care more about kind of getting to know us and the way we think and the way we chat through things? Because a lot of the feedback of the most meaningful things kind of have nothing to do with Kawartha Small Business.
Yeah, I think when I started this with you, I wanted a podcast, I think. To me, it was good content. It was a new channel. And was that it? No, I wanted it to be an awareness.
I think awareness, and that was in the starts of like starting point, kind of, you want that kind of mass awareness of people in town, the small business community and the Kawarthas. And
that hasn't changed. I don't know. I actually don't think it's been hard to keep this regular schedule up, and you might laugh, but because we've come close a couple times of not being able to get an episode out. Not in a while, but
I think once I was a day late because I totally thought I had it posted and I didn't, and then I snuck it out like Wednesday morning or something. But
we've done 2, I think, solo podcasts that we've aired at least. I've always found that easy, which is kind of funny. So when you hear people say like, "Oh, it's so amazing that you've done all that content," I don't think that part's been hard, which is wild to me. So that's not changed the idea of a podcast, the idea of awareness, the idea of what are we doing this for, is a good one. And what are we talking about and why? At first, it was really easy to come up with topics, right? Like different things that should be talked about.
It was like for me, it was like a pent-up list of here's all these things. And then who are the business owners we want to talk to and showcase.
I am bored as hell of coming up with topics. I don't know if exhausted is the right word, but I can't. If me and you sat here for an hour and recorded trying to think of topics, I wouldn't want to do that. And I don't think I could think of any. I like these conversations. I think these are interesting to me, and we've done a small handful of them lately where they are completely riffing. They're completely talking about feelings. We did one that we're going to air later where it was a private conversation that I thought would be interesting to record. I like that idea. And now I've broken down a wall of me removing all that's around us. The microphone is just thing that's there.
Yeah.
Which has taken a while, and that was also a reason why I wanted to do the podcast too, was to get more comfortable talking. So I don't like the topics when we have like set topics too much anymore. I like talking like this. I love talking to business owners still. I do enjoy that a lot. But then, like, what are we doing this for and why? The awareness is good. Do a lot of people know about us? No. It's a marketing problem. There's so much more marketing we could do. So to me, it's like, do we want more people to listen to us and download us? We got to put our money where our mouth is, type of thing, and like we can do a lot of that. But then, do we want to? What does it matter?
Yeah.
Why?
And then when I go down that rabbit hole, it's like, is this then the best use of that?
Yeah.
So we've talked about kind of fighting the fight and you get tired of fighting. So do we blanket the town with posters and try to convince people in Kawarthas to listen to the Kawartha Small Business Podcast? Or do we change the format a bit and do something that has a broader geographical reach and put energy into that? And then I look at, if I'm putting energy, time, money, energy into creating content, you want it to be part of your awareness, part of your marketing.
Yeah.
So is it filling the funnel with the type of clients that you really want to work with, where you could do your best work? Mm-hmm. And that's where I get kind of in the loop of, I love meeting business owners and showcasing them locally, but is it filling my pipeline of what I really want to work at, or is there a better use of the medium?
Yeah, it's a good point. So to think about, do we want to blanket the city of Kawartha Lakes with posters? Do we want people around Lindsay listening to us more? Do we want the Kawartha Lakes business owners listening to us more? Are they gonna? What is that gonna mean? Is that gonna fill my funnel with good leads? Who's picking that up? Not to sound selfish, but like, where's the media picking up this podcast and celebrating it? Where's the city and the government, I'm going to say it, should be knocking down our doors being like, we need to promote the heck out of you guys. We need to put you on a pedestal. Not from a fame perspective, I'm not saying that way, but like, you guys are doing something different and unique, and this is what we should be doing, but we've got you guys doing it. Let's showcase them. Where are they?
Yeah, they're not really there. And I think awareness, a lot of people be like, oh, I've heard of that podcast, but they don't listen to it. Mm-hmm. People who do listen get value. Yeah. And then I think about, so all these business owners we want to listen to it and who it's for, do they care if it's the Kawartha Small Business Podcast or something else that kind of still adds the same amount of value? And if we're marketing to them, we probably still have the same amount of chance of getting them than somebody else, or than someone external to the Kawarthas. Because the word Kawartha, like, we have a lot of listeners from around the world. It's funny, a lot of the countries I know, I'm like, I can guess who that is based on the story brand and business made simple communities that I'm in, and people in that area who listen, and they're always like, what's Kawartha? Like, to them, it's a neat, funny name. And it still applies because it's small businesses, but it's not, it can be a barrier.
I worry that if we take Kawartha out of it and we're not the Kawartha Small Business Podcast, that we're not a niche. Because I think the Kawartha piece is a niche.
Yeah.
And a reason to listen to us. So maybe it's a small town thing. And if we take the niche out, I think we become what we don't want.
Yeah.
And it's a hustle bro, small business, you have to do business this way podcast, which it will never be.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, it's not going to be a how-to podcast.
No, we're never going to do that. So that, to me, not that it doesn't make sense, but like that's a big concern. Yeah. If we take that out and we take the Kawartha out or the small business, the small town part out, then it's just, I think I understand the idea of like getting a larger audience, but then are we going to?
Yeah, it's a good point. And this is why we're recording it and walking through it, because I don't think we have to make any decisions at the moment. I think if anything, like I don't have the energy to really go through a rebrand or a redo exercise anytime soon. It's in the next couple months.
Yeah.
I think it could be a way, though. I've always looked at this podcast as like kind of chunks and eras, and sometimes it aligns with like when we do a lot of recording and kind of batches, and we're coming up on summertime, so we'll probably record a bunch of episodes that will run through summer into fall. And it's more, how do we maybe practice something new or have a focus for that time period that could be a stepping stone to something else, or it could reaffirm that, we really want to focus on Kawartha.
What other stuff would you want to refocus on or other direction?
I like that it's conversational. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think about, again, part of it's the skill that I'm like looking at it. What skills am I building and why? Mm-hmm. So I like interviews. I like the conversation. I don't want to get into anything that's overproduced or written or trying to kind of drive to an outcome. I really like our natural conversations that we have.
That's what makes it easy too. This is kind of effortless to do.
Yeah, it's kind of effortless at the same time. It's not, I wouldn't say it's really easy.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a skill to guide it a little bit, and then some trust that it's going to be good. And we have a great dynamic together that fits for when we have guests.
Yeah.
So I want to keep it that format. And I don't know, we had talked about the podcast and kind of, I would like to do more content with other businesses using the podcast, but it's not something I want to force too much. So,
because like to jump in there, like I agree. Like I'm done fighting a lot of fights, and I had a moment recently where I thought, why are we inviting some of these people on the podcast when they've never supported us?
Yeah.
Maybe not personally, but professionally as individuals or as the podcast collectively. And I'm like,
yeah, they don't even know what it is.
Why are we doing that?
Yeah. And that's, again, partly for me, it's I don't want to be local media that's like hunting and promoting specific businesses. I want to promote certain businesses and I want to give that platform, but I don't want to fight that fight.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's when we had the conversation of we have to invite people that have been good to us, personally, professionally, collectively. Get Aisha here. Get Joel here. They're the next two people we have to have on.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, like, way more critical of, have you tried to help my business? Have you literally given me money? Have you been through the doors of Thrive? Have you had a business conversation with Brian? If not, you're out.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, if you personally try to support me, you're in. But otherwise, there's a part of me that's just, I don't know what the word is, but I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not fighting that fight.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to create community where people collaborate, and that includes contributing and back and forth. And, there's people who want more people to listen to it and engage with the podcast. At the same time, you can't force people to be part of it. And I don't want to, I get a bit tired of people might know about it, but they don't listen, or they'll say like, oh, I'm so glad you're doing this. And whatever they say, you could tell they haven't never listened to an episode because they think it's one thing, and it's nice to be known. But then this kind of bridges to, partly you do it for awareness and to be known and to create community. And another thing I was thinking, during my play, for me anyway, I've always had a hard time kind of accepting support, love, praise. I always deflected a little bit. But there was a night where I knew basically everybody in the audience who kind of showed up to watch me in this play. And I realized, I do know a lot of people. I do have community. If I go up to Kindred and sit in the coffee shop there for any amount of time, I am going to know a chunk of the people who are flowing through there. So if you do it to kind of get known, and for me, it's never, I don't want to just be known from like the first conversation. Like I like getting to know people a little bit over time. And I don't know that the podcast has been a major contributor to that. It's been showing up at other things or just being curious and meeting people. And those people are still going to listen to whatever podcast we create.
And that's why I don't think going more broad is going to help us.
Yeah.
I think if we did that, it would have to be for another reason. It would have to be, now is the time to generate revenue from this.
Yeah.
And then if it's not, we're done. I don't know if it's going to get more eyes on us, more business to us. We'd have to spend some money. We'd have to do some more stuff. So I don't know if that's the answer for that.
Yeah.
But like you said, we're not here to come up with an answer right now. But
Yeah.
One thing I think that would be interesting is if we're going to rethink it, and it's still business because that's what I want to talk about, but then we incorporate mental health into it as well. It's something we've talked a little or a lot about on this. I'm not stealing your idea, but it's an intentional blend of the two.
Oh, and it's not stealing an idea. It's the natural, organic collaboration that I think is a direction I would like to explore.
Yeah. And the idea of like feelings and business. And there's an element of tell me about your business, but then there are scripted / general directions we are going to go.
Yeah.
Where it's not just conversational, but like we're going to ask you, how did this make you feel? Well, I felt okay though. Like, and not to push buttons, but get those thoughts out vocally from those people and be like, you know what? It's really hard. It's really stressing me out. This has been a burden on me, and it's been a weight on me, and it's made me a worse parent and a partner, and my head is elsewhere. And those are the conversations I would like to get out.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting in a way of it's not a business podcast and it's not a mental health podcast. I don't know if, I'm sure they exist, but a combination of the two.
Yeah.
And I know that we both have thoughts of what the title would be, and I think it's a good one. But
I already have I went and got the domain, so we have the .com. But that, this is a sidebar, maybe another one. But as we're thinking out loud, that title could be a product or a something else that we do and use in a different way than necessarily the podcast. That's another.
Are you going to do like hypnosis for business? You don't want to say, do you?
Potentially. Like it's a tool I have. I think they all kind of work together. And I've always been fascinated by how people make decisions. And how we run businesses, and so much of it is the right guides around you, navigating life as a small business owner. It comes up parenting, like working with your partner, communicating these things, building a team. Like there's all of this stuff, and it's not just how do I do it? What's the system that I use? It's tackling all of these things that are by nature intertwined. So having the tool for hypnosis is, I think, a part of helping people make change faster, or be able to understand the decisions that they want to make for themselves. I don't know that I want to do a specific podcast or just do that. To me, it's kind of part of the overall kind of ecology of kind of what we're tackling.
I wonder if business owners, would be more or less interested to be on the podcast if that was what we wanted to do.
I think it's more. I also think we could have repeat guests a bit more. I think of some podcasts I like where that you kind of hear some of the same people, but they show up like once a month or once every couple months versus a new showcase every time.
That's a good one. I like that idea.
But I like the idea of like, it's a conversation with a business owner, and we've a few times directly showcased some businesses, but it's always been more of a conversation and we learn about the business, but in a way that's different than the typical way to do it. So I like the idea of like, we're showcasing you as a business owner. We want to promote each other, but we're also showing the personal side.
Is it going to be authentic business talk?
Yeah, authentic.
AuthenticBusinessTalk.com.
Hashtag authentic.
Hashtag innovation.
Hashtag innovation. It's funny because it is authentic and it is
actual all the things we
innovation.
Joke about, you and me, but
Yeah, I joke about the buzzword of it.
Yeah.
I had a student the other day. I've been teaching, and a student who is one of the more brilliant students I met, who didn't think he was good at anything, and was specifically talking about the way some other classes are structured. He was just trying to get through, and the compliment he gave me was how he completely learned how to think. He had freedom to think. He had freedom to like actually innovate and create, and kind of where his mind has gone over the course of the classes is beyond what he said it ever would have if he was in like the other classes where they kind of focus on the buzzwords and the quote unquote right way to do everything. So, authenticity and innovation, it comes more from the process versus kind of controlling it and just telling everyone it's innovation. Like, this is an innovative conversation because we don't know where it's going, but it's going to create a better path for us.
It's almost like what we've done is on this podcast talked about the wrong way to do business.
Yeah.
Which is really cool and super interesting to me as I'm thinking about it. Because you just said people think there's a right way to do business. And we both don't agree with that.
Yeah.
There is no right way. I literally emailed someone less than 24 hours ago that I met for less than a minute. And she was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've got this idea. I'm running with it. And I was like, honestly, I've got my own business, just so you know. I've learned that over the last a couple of years, none of us know what we're doing. Yeah. We're all trying to figure it out. And like, there is no right way to do business. And I think
it's a barrier to business because people think there's a right way. And it's funny, when I look back to where it started, the podcast was meant to be not something else. It was like kind of the anti, we don't want to be the Business Bro podcast. We don't want to be here's how you do it podcast. We don't want to be cheering everyone on and being like, oh, you're the greatest entrepreneur ever, and here's a bunch of buzzwords that should apply to you. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be resilient, and you have to have like all these things people already know.
Yeah.
But I like to acknowledge that nobody really knows what they're doing. It's why I love frameworks, because yes, there's best practices, and you have to be doing marketing of some sort, otherwise no one's going to know you exist. But there's no perfect plan that's going to work for everybody. Like, we're kind of all in the mess together, helping each other through it, yet lots of people succeed doing it.
So the barrier to business is that the idea that you have to do business a certain way. And I think another barrier is risk. They're risk adverse.
Yeah, they're fear, scarcity. They kind of hope someone else will figure it out for them and the money will just flow in. So it's like they want the easy thing to do, and then they don't know how to do it the right way because they've been told, you need to go to business school, or you need to know how to, be an accountant. Or it's all these kind of stories we've accepted that are just not true. Because you can figure all that stuff out as you go. Like, some of my favorite business who have grown, they're always embarrassed by their lack of record keeping, their lack of doing anything kind of properly for like a year or 2 years. But if you're actually making money and delivering value, you can hire someone to sort all of that out for you. And there's a way around it. There's a way to then kind of restructure and rebuild it a certain way. But there's no perfect way to do it. And there's no guaranteed way to do it.
What do you think our next steps are?
I don't know if there's tangible steps. I think having this conversation is helpful. I think it helps us. I think we're maybe on a similar page to the types of conversations we want to get into for like the next batch. Like, there's a few topics upcoming, and then I think we'll probably have a few, back-to-back recording days where we're thinking about who we want to invite on.
Sure. And
we can have repeat guests with this kind of new direction a little bit, and record a batch and see what happens. I think, where I'm leaning now, it's like, it's a good point about, the Kawartha name. There's a niche there. We could still promote it external to the Kawarthas.
Yeah.
There's probably some messaging updates that we could do to just change, like tweak a few different things. But I don't have the energy right now to totally rebrand anything. And again, it's our podcast. We can kind of do anything we want with it. And it's not like the external community is going to get angry or even notice a change, right? That's the other thing. People get caught up in you can't do that in this community. People will lose their mind. And I've heard that lots of businesses say that, and it's never true.
Right.
Because not that many people are ever paying attention to you.
But who's going to know? Is Ian? Like, I don't care about him.
Yeah. He's going to be on it anyway. He's probably going to like it more because he's not in the Kawarthas, and he can be a recurring guest.
Maybe. I can't be there, though. I'm busy that day.
Yeah, we have a few. And I think that's...
I don't think we need to do a whole rebrand, by the way.
No.
I think, we can tweak the logo. I think I like the name a lot. We've not said it out loud, but I think we're on the same page, and I know what it is, and I think it's really good. I don't think that we have to rebrand much, if anything. There's certain, I think, of colors we might dial down, and in a way, we've benefited ourselves from having so many colors, which in one capacity has been a pain in my butt. Now is actually a way that we can dial it down, and I think we'll align with what we want to do. And I don't think it's going to be as complicated as you think. I think we could and then it's up to us, how do we want to transition it? I don't, so I'm now racing.
Yeah.
Just as you know what I do, but.
Yeah, you start putting the step-by-step plan.
The step-by-step plan where I'm I don't want to do this, and now I'm well, here's the plan to do it anyways.
And you could do it slowly and no one even notices sometimes. Or you could just
we can do
rip
it
the
slowly,
Band-Aid
but then
and
to me, like, if we're a content factory, which is like a part of what we are about, or I am maybe thinking more about, is we make it a thing. And September, October, November, hammer. That aligns with some other stuff that I'm doing. It would align with our anniversary. If we did in October, it would align with if we did September, like back to business thinking, past the summertime. So, great idea. We're going with it.
Awesome. Great conversation. Stay tuned for more. We'll, at some point, release what that name is.
I was going to say, I don't know if I have a problem with it, like if you got the domain and whatever else, but no, we don't have to now. We'll make it a whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's a teaser. Right?
Yeah.
If you want to know, reach out, we'll tell you.
That's marketing 101.
Yeah, if you want to, if you're listening to this, it's not a secret. Just ask us. We'll tell you. All right. And that's our show. Matt, what do you want the people to know, and where can they find you?
I want them to go to mattygdigital.com and book a call.
Awesome. And I want them to go to profitcoach.ca and book a call with me. If you'd like to be on the podcast, please reach out to us, and we can make that happen at Set It Up at Kawartha Small Business Podcast.ca.